Mr. Dyer, you have 2 minutes.
The children exclaimed, "What about love?" I'm saying, what about equity? If you allow Thomasville to close, throw your strategic, plant facilities plan in the garbage. Because this precedent that you're setting with Thomasville, when you allow a purpose-built, a contractor to make a decision on a tax-paid building, then you have no credibility. That is the greatest inequity of all, and you're supposed to have a department that's supposed to look at that. There's stability. Stability for children is very important. If a child leaves an elementary school and go to middle school, they feel some kind of way about the old school. So imagine children who are attending a school and they haven't completed their cycle, and now you're shutting the door on them, especially after their building has been condemned. And the children have been living those conditions for a long period of time. So if you have any type of heart, you give those children some time to heal. And what about the solution of working with that low student teacher population? If Purpose Built is the group that's supposed to run it, why are they throwing in the towel if they have an effective system to bring those young people up to par? But I guess they don't. You work with the low student teacher ratio, then that's a recruitment tool when they plan to rebuild a place where you get more students to come in. That impacts Carver, that impacts Slater, that impacts all those schools. But you see, development is the name of the game. They use black boys and girls as scapegoats for failure to usher in development. Time and time again. Now, I know you're new here, but it's amazing how they bring superintendents here to ruin their careers. I'm against any type of school closure, especially coming out of a pandemic. The numbers that your group, that Sizemore group brought in here, totally inaccurate. All of the white schools are full capacity. All of the black schools, low capacity. But yet, that's where the development is happening. If you're looking at statistics and ARC, they're talking about growth. So I would say reevaluate, get involved, because your blood is on your hands if Thomasville closed, and you're going to hear from the community. Thank you.
Madam Chair, this concludes public comment.
And welcome to Exposed. I'm your host, Nate Dyer, and tonight we're going to cover the issue of housing. And of course, it definitely relates to education. In Atlanta, like most metropolitan cities, public housing, it was pretty much created in 1935, and I have a chart up later, but just want to give you some foreground. It was created in a good light to help people transition from, the struggling nature of the economic situation that they were in, to find prosperity, to have their own homes, home ownership. That was the goal. But at that time, it was pretty much to build the white community up. As a transition to Black people having access to public housing, you can just imagine what that story turned into. It wasn't a desirable place to live or to come from. It pretty much went into disrepair. It may have started in a good light, but systematically it ran into ruins. When they closed public housing down here in Atlanta, people failed to realize that had an impact on homelessness, crime, poverty, and of course, education and the lack thereof. It destabilized communities, and mainly our children. So you look at generation after generation, and how this thing just spiraled out of control, where we have a great deal of young people at that time who are adults now, who may not have found their gift in life, their career, or the mindset to start their own business, because their lives were upended by having to uproot from the place that they have always known, good, bad, or otherwise. We're going to start with a chart, basically the public housing that has been closed here in Atlanta. Thank you, Adrian, for that. And I'm just going to read something. In 1994, that's 2 years before the Olympics, the Atlanta Housing Authority, encouraged by the federal Hope 6 program, embarked on a policy created for the purpose of comprehensive revitalization of severely distressed public housing developments. These distressed public housing properties were replaced by mixed income communities. Now, when they say mixed income communities, and that's pretty much a code word as to displacing the current residents, okay? Because most times, we want to say mixed, you think, okay, maybe the old residents were able to come back, but that's not usually the case. Here we have replaced by mixed income communities. Number one on the list is Capitol Homes. You have Carver Homes, Egan Homes, East Lake Meadows, Grady Homes, Harris Homes, John Hope Homes, McDaniel Glenn Homes, Perry Homes, Techwood Clark Howell University Homes. Okay, that's about 11 there. Communities that had built relationships, had a foundation within the city, uprooted. Let's go to demolished and vacant land. Antoine Graves, Bankhead Courts, Bowen Homes, Inglewood Manor, Gilbert Gardens, Herndon Homes, Hollywood Courts, Jonesboro North, Jonesboro South, Leela Valley, Palmer House, Roosevelt House, Thomasville Heights Projects, U Rescue Villa. Okay, let's go to the Section 8 communities. The View at Rosa Burney, the Element at Kirkwood Homes, Edgewood Court, Forest Cove, which was we're dealing with currently, not demolished. Martin Street Plaza, Westminster, East Lake High Rise, Cosby Spear High Rise, Hillcrest Homes, Hidden Village Homes, John O. Childs, Tucker Homes. Okay, thank you for that, Adrian. So to those areas that have not been demolished, guess what's coming? Guess what's coming? Yeah, development. It's amazing how our communities, we fail to realize how valuable the land is that we are on. And if we realize that, we will put things in place to ensure that, hey, we would not be displaced. If development is coming, which it always does, and I'm going to say, I'll go back, I guess it's a difficult thing to try to preserve a community that's dealing with so much chaos. Just say hell. We're reported as having the most crime, the lowest performing schools, lack of businesses or job placement, etc. You name it. And all of these components are used against us so that it lowers the property values. Prime property, but those conditions lower, and that propaganda, I'll call it, lowers the property value, which makes our communities vulnerable. Let's go into the public housing timeline. Okay. Starts in 1935. Techwood Homes built in Atlanta. Now, at that time, it was for basically the white community, where they were able to move into these homes with dignity and respect. They were well kept, maintained, but they had the promise of being able to graduate from those homes into, single home units, basically their own land and property, which I think if you watch the East Lake Meadows documentary, it pretty much talks about how banks work with them. The government didn't want to see them, let's just be for real, white people staying in projects. So they gave them an out. Now, when it comes to the Black people, basically they want to put boards, nails, even a tank by the door so you can't get out. So let's go to 1937. Housing Act of 1937 initiates construction of public housing. Okay. 1949, Housing Act of 1949 reauthorizes. 1937, the 1937 Act expands construction of public housing. Okay. 1974, Nixon moratorium on all public housing programs. Isn't that interesting? Okay. So they initiated it, they reauthorized it, but in 1974, they stopped it. Let's go to 1992, the Hope For program demolishes tens of thousands of units, only half replaced, thousands evicted. Now, let's go back to this timeline. Just roll it down one more time, Adrian. Now, look at the heavy push in 1937 to 1949, okay, where they built and expanded this structure. That's millions, I'm going to just say billions of dollars. And I'm just say it went to the developers' hands. Okay, and scroll up, Adrian. Oh, down, sorry. Yeah. Okay, 1974, they shut it down. And then in 1992, once these communities, good, bad, or otherwise, had some level of stability, and regardless, good, bad, or otherwise, now in 1992, they're going to disrupt that. So look at the cycle. The government created some level of stability to say, hey, we're going to create homes for you. But they didn't provide the amenities. They allowed crime to manifest itself in those neighborhoods when they could have nipped it in the butt and provided little to no opportunities for upward mobility. It was pretty much you catch them, you get them in lockdown, and they can never escape. But then in 1992, to add insult to injury, they shut it down and evicted the people. Let's go to 1998. Faircloth Amendment limits construction of new public housing. Then 2012, Rental Assistance Demonstration RAD program created. So we see the game. I see. Did you have a comment, Adrian?
Yeah, Nate. First of all, this timeline is so important, but there's some events that's missing from this timeline, and what you like to do and what we like to do here at Square Mile Media and certainly with Exposed is what Nate's reviewing with you is available on the web, okay? And we would encourage you to go out and do your own research. But what's missing from this, and it's explained further on in this document, is the Fair Housing Act of 1968 and the integration, which required now that up until 1968, the housing was segregated. Whites in public housing was separated from Black public housing. In 1968, that's when everything changed, the Fair Housing Act. And 6 years later, 1974, is where you start seeing the federal government back out of, as you said, there was this boom in the early 1930s and 1940s that was largely for white populations. But in the 1960s, when the Fair Housing Act was enacted, that's when the federal government started backing out and limiting the resources and certainly curtailing new construction. So I just wanted to add that to it.
Yeah, and thank you for adding that. And the reason we bring all of this up is because, most of you in the viewing audience may not feel like, hey, this doesn't concern you. I'm not in poverty. I'm not losing my home. I'm not in the projects. But it does impact you. I mean, if one of us is suffering, we're all suffering because, what replaces those, I'm just going to use the projects for a better word, the mixed use housing. So they didn't get you doing the demolition of the projects, but they're going to get you with the taxes. They're going to get you with the frustration of, do you want to sell your home? You're going to sell your home. And then possible eminent domain that some people are going through here in the city. There are all types of pressures that they can put on you. We have to understand that as a unit, as a whole, we can control development. we can manage it. We can manage it to our best interest. You know, one way of doing that is the community benefits agreement. But I'm going to read one thing before I go into that. The federal public housing program started as part of the Housing Act in 1937, passed during the New Deal. First intended to be a jobs program and slums clearing effort, public housing was the result of powerful grassroots organizing. Okay. So it began as a good thing for our communities. You know, for one thing, you could go to one area as a Black person and communicate in those neighborhoods, and the word would spread. But when you break it up and fragment it and spread the people out, well, how effective is that for the community? It really weakens our community, or weakened it. You know, we had cluster of homes, and I say good, bad, or otherwise, because the propaganda against those communities was so huge. All you wanted to hear was somebody got shot, somebody died, the children can't learn, when there was a great deal of rich history in those communities. And people still celebrate the times that they had there today. But people don't know those stories. They only want to hear about what the media uses to accomplish the goal for the developer. Let's get together. Let's link up. You know, the unfortunate thing in this whole process is when these homes were demolished, the mayors were of color. I can't say Black. They were of color. They had the hues similar to what you see here. But they allowed these things to happen. You got a person who was on the city council while Forest Code was suffering and struggling, but now he's the mayor. But he's not moving a dime. He wants to put $27 million in the past for some dirt, you know, a brick company. So basically you're enriching the massa once again, $27 million. You know, you claim that, oh, it was such a atrocious time. Well, why reward the people who own it with millions of dollars? Maybe it's just me, but it makes no sense. I'm going to go to this community benefits agreement, just some notes that will help some of those out there who are facing this issue. For one thing, the community benefits agreement is a document that can really chart the course as to how your community can come up with development and grow with development. Now, I'm going to tell you, you know, you can have the best plan all day, but if you don't have no backbone, and I'm just going to be clear and cool with you and say a kick-ass mentality, but then, you know, just sit down, let them run over you, because all this, you know, trying to talk political and trying to be negotiable will get you nowhere, because the plan has already been written. They've researched you. They've studied you. They know your habits. They know what you got in your pocket. So I'll plan all these games like you're somebody and look at the community at this point in time that they're taking over. Well, you know, that's not going to fit the bill. Some more information. Yeah, community benefits agreement. And I'm going to read a little bit of this. Thanks, Adrian. I'm just going to say that a CBA is a legally enforceable contract between a coalition of community-based organizations and the developer of a proposed project. Now, I want to say why that's important, because, and I've been to several meetings, and a lot of times the community feels like, well, let's go to this meeting to see what they're going to give us. Wrong. They're not going to give you nothing. Nathan, not even a wooden nickel. So the best thing for you to do is meet with your league, organization, or association and put your own black and white together, or what you want. Now, I'm not talking about no shiny garbage cans or no, we want the weeds and grass cut. That's going to be taken care of. Remember, they have the plan, they have the vision. They're going to come in and provide all those things. You don't have to ask that. Thing you need to be focused on is where you're going to sit in this whole process. Are you going to be sitting in your home, or are you going to be sitting displaced somewhere outside of 285 or further? And history has shown that. Okay. Some components are, and I just said, don't ask questions. provide solutions. Provide solutions to your community and where you are. Document it, written down. Put a price on your inconvenience. Because, while you may feel like you don't have anything of value in your community, well, wake up. That's why they're coming into your neighborhood. Location, location, location. They've scoped you out. There's a reason why they administer resources in your neighborhood, why you don't get the same share of, protection other communities have. It's because they need you to fail miserably. And, the thing that I have a problem with mainly is how they do the Black boys and girls in our communities. All right. So once you put a dollar amount on it, and let's say 20 million, let's start 20 million and up. And that's just a down payment. The rest of the money is going to come through residual income. That's like, hey, annual, a percentage of the projects that break ground and due to this community benefits agreement. Yeah, you can do that. Build a relationship with the planning department in the city. And for one thing, your benefits agreement needs to be ratified by the developer and the partners in the group. You probably know their names. Then have it ratified by the city council and the mayor to make it a legally binding document. And then maybe there's some more legal jargon that may need to go into it as well. But with that, it's a working document. When the planning committee hears about an activity going on in your neighborhood in that boundary, well, guess what? That information should be sent to your community organization at that point and to the developer. That developer comes in, meets with your organization, understand what the parameters and the rules are and what how the engagement is going to go forward. And they peel you off the dollars that you are owed, which will take care of your shiny garbage cans, whatever needs to be cut down, upgrading your homes, because no sense in being stuck in the 60s with the aesthetics of your home when everything else looks like it's the millennia and beyond, futuristic. So that, in this sense, you're able to grow with development. Now, you just don't want to exist. Let's talk about not just existing. You want to have a great quality living experience. That means you're mentally fed. You feel like you're a part of it. When people drive through your community, they say, oh, wow, this is an established community that's been here. These are the legacy residents, and their homes look the part. But most times you see when development comes into the neighborhood, you look like you left in the 40s and the 60s or the 20s. Maybe your house is just falling apart. And the reason most communities fail is because they expect the developers to give them something. You can't get nothing if you don't ask. And you have to ask properly in the black and white. You don't have to say please or nothing. They need you more than you need them. And I put it like this: a true partnership, both people win. They're on a timeline. They have no time to lose, okay? They cannot afford any cries of racism or treating the seniors wrong or any mishaps. So they'll be willing to play ball. But if you're a Rudy Poot and you want a soft shoe and say, well, sir, whatever you can peel off and do for us, think about our history. They don't give a damn about your history. I mean, you see the developments that's going on now, 100-year-old homes being painted white. The brick is being painted white. In my opinion, that's a symbol to mark to say, oh, don't call or bother this house. It has already been developed or part of the gentrification process. Go through. You'll see the painting of the houses white. You'll see this metal railing that they use, and a basic color scheme with maybe an accent color of an orange or something like that. That means that they're coming. And these developers, and you can say it's my opinion, buy the houses, renovate the houses, and purchase the house from themselves again, and jack the prices up astronomically. to impact the tax base. Sad, isn't it? But when you have this community benefits agreement, it would create an umbrella to protect you. Now, I've researched many across the land, and I'm gonna tell you, most of them a bunch of bull jive. They have well, we want to have construction jobs for the residents. We want training okay, when the project is over, how many construction jobs are they're gonna be? Is that for longevity? If you don't protect your schools, you're not gonna be there anyway, because that is the biggest factor in redevelopment. The schools must have, the area must have a low population of Black students. I think that's self-explanatory, right? If they're coming into an impoverished area, and of course, most times they're going to rank the school as low performing, well, they have to change the whole character of the school. They have to rename it or tear it down. Now they're not going to tear it down, but they'll modify it and rename it, and then start all over from scratch. And then overnight, it becomes a 5-star school due to development. But the people who live there had the opportunity to do these things. So I'm not just going to put everything on the developer. I got to put it on you as well. Where are you? Where have you been? Okay, I have 3rd Street down. Atlanta communities need community benefit agreements. We can't fight gentrification on one family at a time. You are so correct. And you see, the reason I went through this history earlier about the homes, the Egan homes, the Bowen homes, all those homes that have been shut down and the people haven't been put back on that property, the Herndon homes, is because we are disjointed. We have these ignorant territorial lines that don't benefit us, but it benefits the opposition. Yeah. You can hate where he's on this side and he's on this side. You both Black of some hue. And that's going. So development comes in and slices and dices it, and you say nothing. You say nothing. Except, where's us gonna go? Well, I tell you, out. Out. People think, hey, people get snowed in by these grants that they come up. Well, we got a grant for beautification. We got a grant. Yeah, beautify for the next population. You got other things to focus on. That's stabilization of your community. And the key points are the schools. I don't care what they say about how the children are performing. That's not true. Children learn, period, especially Black boys and girls. Okay, so get that through your head and understand that your child is brilliant, but they may not be getting the services at their school because they need that school to fail. And they may have plenty of so-called Black faces in there, but if your child didn't come out, they're not doing their job. That's a whole nother story. We're just trying to package everything so you understand, because you may be living in a great community, feel like you got all the amenities, but you have a niece or a nephew, you have a grandchild in certain areas that may be being hit by gentrification. Are you going to sit by and let them run over your family? I would say, hell no. So again, the community benefits agreement. Now, just because you create it doesn't mean it's enforceable. So that's another thing I need to go into. How do you enforce it? You got to have some backbone. You got to have some chutzpah and ready to kick some you know what. And the way you kick that is you got the players at the table. Okay. We have social media. Now, when Egan homes and those other homes are being closed, and we didn't have social media. We couldn't create our own version of what's going on. Now we have social media. Again, I told you earlier, they cannot afford any hits of discrimination, racism, treating seniors wrong, and of course, Black boys and girls. Everybody else, in my opinion, you fend for yourself. But those are the protected areas that we need to wrap our arms around. When we do that, hold them accountable and record the process. Facebook, YouTube, whatever. Record the process, but don't record nothing if you don't have your documentation, if you don't have your game together. If you don't have your game together, well, you know what's going to happen. You know, you're going to say what coulda, woulda, shoulda. It's our time. Let's grow with development and not let it run us out of our communities. Okay. I'd like to thank once again Adrian Coleman for her expertise in putting on the show with Square Mile Media. That's in Atlanta. She does a great job. Feel like we make a great team disseminating this information. She's very passionate, very detail oriented. And hey, if you're interested in doing a show, hey, she may have a budget for you. She'll tell me to say that, but I just think she does such great work that if someone is interested in working with her, find out what her rates are. Find out, what it would take for you to get your show together. Of course, we're going to be growing and keeping this information going, but expect to see, hey, bigger and better things. For now, I'm Nate Dyer, the host of Exposed, and I look forward to seeing you next week, Wednesday at 7 o'clock, same time. If you have a topic that you want covered, just send it to me. My information is there. I will, Nate at KidsFirst.pro. Send me information. If you want to be a guest, if you're interested in being a guest, hey, you may feel like my point is a bunch of bull. Even though I try hard to keep it right and tight. But you may say, hey, your point is a bunch of bull. Or you may say, I agree with that. I have some more information to provide. So let's work together, enlighten the community as well as empower. And look forward to seeing you next week. Love you and stay tuned and empowered.
Mr. Dyer, you have 2 minutes.
The children exclaimed, what about love? I'm saying, what about equity? If you allow Thomasville to close, throw your strategic, the plant facilities plan in the garbage. Because this precedent that you're setting with Thomasville, when you allow a purpose-built contractor to make a decision on a tax-paid building, then you have no credibility. That is the greatest inequity of all, and you're supposed to have a department that's supposed to look at that. There's stability. Stability for children is very important. If a child leaves an elementary school and go to middle school, they feel some kind of way about the old school. So imagine children who are attending the school and they haven't completed their cycle, and now you're shutting the door on them, especially after their building has been condemned. And the children have been living those conditions for a long period of time. So if you have any type of heart, you give those children some time to heal. And what about the solution of working with that low student teacher population? Their purpose built is the group that's supposed to run it. Why are they throwing in the towel if they have an effective system to bring those young people up to par? But I guess they don't. You work with the low student teacher ratio, then that's a recruitment tool when they plan to rebuild a place where you get more students to come in. That impacts Carver, that impacts Slater, that impacts all those schools. But you see, development is the name of the game. They use black boys and girls as scapegoats for failure to usher in development. Time and time again. Now, I know you're new here, but it's amazing how they bring superintendents here to ruin their careers. I'm against any type of school closure, especially coming out of a pandemic. The numbers that your group, that Sizemore group right in here, totally inaccurate. All of the white schools are full capacity. All of the black schools, low capacity. But yet, that's where the development is happening. If you're looking at statistics and art, they're talking about growth. So I would say reevaluate, get involved, because your blood is on your hands if Thomasville closed, and you're going to hear from the community. Thank you.